Welcome to the Pit Stop Tire Pros. Today, we're going to take this ordinary base pickup truck and turn it into an off-road ready machine. This particular customer works way up in the mountains and needed us to outfit his work truck to be capable of traversing the Rocky Mountains while hauling some vital cargo. We'll be equipping the truck with 34.25-inch Nitto Trail Grappler tires, giving the truck some needed trail clearance for high mountain travel. The lift kit we are installing is a BDS 6-inch lift with a 5-inch rear block, Fox 2.0 Performance Remote Reservoir shocks, and Pro Series Airlift airbags. So let's get started. Our first task is removing all of the undercarriage covers in order to get access to the front differential. As I mentioned, this is a basic XL model work truck, so nothing special including these basic wheels that we're getting rid of. After the wheels come off, it's time to remove the brakes, including the calipers, rotors, and hubs. This BDS kit includes all our hardware and components that will lower the front differential, replace the steering knuckles, lower the sway bar, and replace the rear axle blocks. BDS is a subsidiary of Fox Racing, so the components have a quality build and finish. All of the powder coating seems to have a durability that will last many miles off-road. This is a brand new truck, so the front end came apart quite easily with little trouble. In order for the new kit to fit, everything around the front differential has to be removed in order to pull it out and relocate its new position on the truck. We remove the factory steering knuckle, then the factory front struts. We are replicating the customer's previous build on his 2014 F150, so we are not upgrading the front struts to new Fox Racing, but depending on your setup, it definitely doesn't hurt to upgrade those too. Next comes both lower control arms, which will be relocated to the new lower differential drop brackets. After that, the sway bar is removed, and the front connection of the front drive shaft is also removed. Now, as I mentioned, this truck is new, so most of the components came out with ease, but per BDS installation, the driver's side CV shaft does not have to be removed, and since it really didn't want to budge, we left it on the differential. Passenger side came out real easy. Next to come out was the subframe crossmember, exposing all the mounts to the front diff. We removed the power steering rack in order to get easier access to the highest mount on the differential, but this isn't absolutely necessary, but does create a lot more room for work. After removing all 3 points of mounting hardware to the diff, it can finally come out. Next, we made our measurements to trim the driver's side subframe mounting bracket to accommodate the new diff drop bracket. This is the only side that needed to be trimmed and is removed so that the uppermost diff mount can clear the mount post. The angles of the stock bracket were a little awkward, so we used a combination cutoff wheel and sawzall. Once cut, we cleaned up the sharp edges and removed enough material so that the new mount will install. We finish it off with a little bit of paint and we're ready to go. Now our new subframe diff drop can be mounted. As the new parts are installed, we left most of them loose until every component was fitted and then able to properly torque to specification. With diff installed with the new relocation brackets, we install all the additional support pieces in their new locations per BDS installation procedure. Once the rear bracket is fitted, the front bracket is then installed. The new front and rear drop brackets are also home to the lower control arms with eccentric bolts that allow us to adjust caster and camber for the front alignment are fitted. A neutral position is recommended prior to tightening before the alignment adjustment. After the control arms are in, the new differential skid plate is installed and passenger CV axles installed back into the differential. Prior to the front struts going back in, we install the new top hats that will accommodate the additional length that the front now has, double checking all our new components as the rest is assembled. The factory hubs are pre-installed into our new, longer steering knuckles and torqued to the right specification and stabbed into place. The factory tire pressure monitors are now removed from the Ford factory rims, which includes the removable valve stem and sensors. Typically, we would program and install new sensors in the new rims, but since this had less than 100 miles on them, we decided to use the factory parts. Once all the sensors and stems were installed, tires are balanced. Now that the suspension is rebuilt, the brakes can go back on. All that is left are the new sway bar drop brackets that relocate them to the new lower position. The drive shaft spacer plate and new studs to secure it in place are threaded in and torqued to specification. Final touches for the front are completed with the supplied badging and rivets. The rear suspension is pretty straightforward. The old leaf spring blocks and bump stops are removed, and the new blocks, U-bolts, and brake line drop brackets are installed. For this customer, the additional airbags were installed to allow for a load leveling ability since the customer hauls substantial weight while off-road. As a note, the rear blocks have to be flipped 180 degrees from the bump stop facing inward to facing outward in order for the airbags to sit appropriately on the axle. Finally, our new Fox Rear 2.0 Performance Remote Reservoir shocks are installed. The base F150 now has a dramatic new look with a significant difference in clearance to allow these much larger tires. After all components are installed, we hit the alignment rack and verify all our adjustments: caster, camber, toe, and thrust angle to ensure a confident alignment and proper tracking on the road. Lift kits, wheels, and tires are just a part of what we do here at the Pit Stop Tire Pros. If you would like us to showcase more builds including overland products like racks, rooftop tents, and all our general repair and automotive tips and tricks, be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave us those suggestions in the comments section below. If you're in our area and looking for an installer for products, service, or repair, hit us up at pitstopcarcare.com.